And away we go. I am recording this episode the same day I recorded the last episode that's been published. The reason for that is I have additional backlog of pre-recorded episodes in the event of me doing any other shooting works that I could be asked to do. I've joined a couple of choirs quite recently, especially the one that's ran by one of my previous podcast guests. So good for him, I'd say. And also, as I'm recording this, in a few weeks from now, I'll be preparing to head off to Brazil to visit my other family members with my parents, and I'm not sure what days or what time me and my parents are going to be visiting any of my other relatives. It could be the whole day. It could be 1 week that I may not record a podcast episode whatsoever, if not one or two for the entire week. So I'm preparing myself to have an extensive backlog so I can make time for spending time with those I care about. Now, as of the last time I recorded a podcast episode, nothing has been sent by either me or the lads that can risk in our podcast group chat. And I know in the last episode, I talked about a gate-kept method, which I mentioned in the Project Bits team chat that I'm working with alongside Shadow Miner, Eric, and there's Froyo, the little goofball. And yeah, that's all there is to it. With that all being said, let's get right into the news. Starmer insists majority of Labour MPs back his leadership. I doubt that, but I'll give him some benefit of the doubt. Not that I'm being nice. I believe it could be worse, in my opinion. Sir Keir insisted the vast majority of Labour MPs support him on Sunday, dismissing leadership speculation following the Lord Mandelson vetting scandal. Defending the firing, Sir Keir stated he does not regret sacking Sir Ollie Robbins, the senior Foreign Office civil servant who failed to report double red flag security warnings regarding Mandelson. A survey poll for Labour lists show Labour members split on leadership, with 46% in favour of change and 44% wanting Sir Keir to remain. Alex Burghardt, Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, accused Sir Keir of breaching the ministerial code regarding an unlogged February 2025 visit to Palantir in Washington. Sir Keir told the Sunday Times he prioritizes the war in Ukraine and tensions with Iran, arguing domestic political maneuvering distracts from pressing national security issues. That's a lot to get into. The security issues, the Mandelson vetting scandal, how many Labour MPs want Keir Starmer to remain as leader of the Labour Party. There's a lot. I will address the elephant in the room first about how many Labour MPs want Keir Starmer to remain as leader of the Labour Party. Even if there are Labour MPs that genuinely want Keir to remain as leader of the Labour Party, at this point, I'd be surprised there isn't at least 10 Labour MPs that are in strong favour of a leadership election within the Labour Party to elect a new Labour leader. Because that's how much they despise and how much they are against the current leadership of Keir Starmer in the Labour Party. I know there's a handful of Labour MPs right now that certainly want a change of leadership in the party right now. And I'm not even talking about Zara Sultana, that used to be part of Labour, now left on her own terms, and now formed and joined your party alongside Jeremy Corbyn. That in itself is another mess, yet they're still standing, nonetheless, and they're putting out some candidates for the upcoming local elections. So it's a start. I'll give them that. So, other points about security issues, like in general. Yes, absolutely. And I'm not just talking about what's going on in. I'm not just talking about what is going on within Iran. There's also security issues coming from China. I've heard quite recently that medical data from people in the UK have been were put up on sale to people in China, like medical data affiliated with UK citizens were on sale on Alibaba, and people don't know how this was even possible or how no one even noticed anything off, wrong about whatever happened to the medical data of the said UK citizens. So there's a lot of questions that needs to be answered, and it's crucial that something is to be answered. I'm not expecting a documentary or a novel worth of proof in regards to security issues, data being mishandled and sold off to who knows where and what. I do expect a answer as soon as possible. And then, okay, then Lord Mendelsohn betting scandal. I've said enough on that already in previous episodes. Of course, the Mandelson files, which people in the UK are calling it in regards to Mandelson being UK ambassador to the US, doesn't reach the same levels of infamosity and notoriety as the Epstein files. The Mandelson files, nonetheless, given how serious the appointment of Mandelson is by Keir Starmer, the fact there are people calling it the Mandelson files and anything affiliated with Lord Mandelson is now classed under the Mandelson files. Again, not as infamous or notorious as the Epstein files. It is getting a lot of attention nonetheless, and it's really sparking genuine questions about trust within the government, politicians. I think everyone already knows about the trust in politicians anyway. That's not new. Yeah, Keir Starmer is in serious hot water right now. And whilst there's going to be people that will still vote for Labour in upcoming local elections, the amount of seats that Labour currently has, either nationally or locally, other parties are going to snatch it. And I'm not just talking about the Greens, which are taking a lot of Labour seats and councillors, MPs, and so on. Reform are taking Labour seats in local councils as well. And for some reason, Liberal Democrats are getting in and taking Labour seats as well. That is quite rare. That is still that is possible nonetheless. So yeah, that's a lot. There's so much. It's not looking good. What happens next? Who knows? And even if there are people that still want Keir Starmer to continue as Labour leader, in my honest opinion, I feel this is very plausible and quite likely. Starmer will not be leader of the Labour Party when the next general election comes about. It is going to get to a point that Keir Starmer will no longer be leader of the Labour Party. There'll be another person in the Labour Party that would become their leader instead. And then, by the time the next general election comes about, this new Labour leader will do whatever he or she can to keep a hold onto their seat, even when there's going to be people that would vote for Reform, the Greens, Liberal Democrats somehow, and out of the blue, restore Britain. Because remember, whilst people are saying that they worry that Reform will be getting the most seats and could become the next UK government, people are not talking about the impact that Restore Britain could have when the next general election comes about, and how much of Reform support would then be converted and transferred to Restore Britain. That is something that not a lot of people are considering or even talking about. It will come to that point eventually. And as sensitive and as controversial it might be to some people, or most people I know, it's going to be mentioned nonetheless. Someone will still mention it if I'm not the one talking about it. Environmental groups sue Trump administration over approval of new ultra-deep water drilling project. Environmental groups sue the Trump administration on Monday over its approval last month of oil company BP's ultra-deep water drilling project in the Gulf of Mexico. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean the Gulf of America. Goodness me. The groups sued on the 16th anniversary of the nation's worst offshore oil spill 50 miles off the Louisiana coast, when BP's Deepwater Horizon oil rig sent 134 million gallons, 500 million liters, of crude oil spewing into the ocean, killing 11 people and causing billions of dollars in damage to wildlife and miles of coastline. The administration approved BP's $5 billion Cascada project in March, the company's first new oil field developed in the Gulf since 2010. BP said it could have capacity of 80,000 barrels of crude oil per day. Group's Healthy Gulf Habitat Recovery Project, Center for Biological Diversity and others requested a review of the project approval in its Monday filing against the U.S. Interior Department. Secretary Doug Burgum, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, and Director Matthew Giaccona, the groups say information required for the approval is missing and does not demonstrate that BP has the qualifications to conduct safe drilling that deep. They also say that Cascada endangers Gulf residents' health, harms ecosystems, and impacts fishing and tourism industries. Well, they bring up good points, especially with the health of people that live near the Gulf of America or the Gulf of Mexico. Even if this attempt to prevent any oil drilling in the Gulf of Mexico does become successful, that doesn't mean there won't be companies or organizations that will continue attempting to do any of the oil rigging at any point in the next few years. They're still going to continue doing it anyway, no matter how many years people wait for any process to be approved, and no matter how many times these environmental groups and activists protest any oil drilling anywhere in the world, someone is still going to do oil drilling anyway. And at some point, there won't be any oil left to be drilled out of the ground. From that point, everyone's going to be using renewable energies. Wind turbines, solar panels, those machines where power is generated through the tidal waves, biomass, burning trash, although that I think people would say that could have some harms to the environment if burning trash and letting the fumes out. It makes the environment any worse, as people advocating for environmental protection would argue. Yeah, oil is going to be drilled somewhere, and they will do it anyway, no matter how many times activists protest and how many years it takes for companies to get approval to do any drilling. It's going to happen. And yeah, there will be concerns for people's health, given the fumes and the gases that comes out when it comes to such operations. Wouldn't there be procedures about capturing these toxic fumes or eradicating such harmful gases that's so negatively affecting our health? I'd assume there's something in place. Where is that kind of research? Where are the people saying these gases are bad? Here's what we're gonna do to get rid of it. I'm just curious. Where are those stories? And if there's anything, okay, don't think people are gonna be on board with it immediately. Chelsea beats Leeds on Fernandes' goal and sets up FA Cup final meeting with Man City. On Sunday, Enzo Fernandez scored in the 23rd minute to give Chelsea a 1-0 victory over Leeds United at Wembley Stadium, securing their place in the FA Cup final against Manchester City on May 16th. Interim manager Callum McFarlane led Chelsea after the midweek sacking of head coach Liam Rossignol, who lasted 106 days following 5 straight league defeats without scoring. Fernandes met a cross from Pedro Neto with a firm header low into the net in the first half, while goalkeeper Robert Sanchez made crucial saves to deny Leeds. Goalkeeper Robert Sanchez said, "The boys reacted exactly as they should have," adding, "The fans deserve moments like this," while defender Trevor Chalobah emphasised, "We want to fight for the club and the fans." Chelsea will face Manchester City at Wembley on May 16th, after City defeated Southampton 2-1 on Saturday, with the Blues seeking their first FA Cup title since 2018. I wondered, when is the last time any club in England had advanced to the FA Cup final? And at least one club in England in the FA Cup final is not one of the big 6 clubs. I'm talking not Manchester City, not Manchester United, not Chelsea, not Liverpool, not Arsenal, and not Tottenham. When was the last time a club that is not the big 6 got to the FA Cup final? Let alone 2 clubs that are not the big 6 have made it, that competed in the FA Cup final. I'd assume it's been years since a feat like that has ever happened. I'm not sure if there's a more recent time besides Leicester City, although I could have confused that with the Carabao Cup. Nonetheless, wow. Poor Leicester City. Last season, they were relegated from the Premier League down to the EFL Championship, England's second division. And now, I'm hearing that Leicester City have now been relegated to England's third division, EFL League One. How very unfortunate. Very sad. Now, surely Leicester City will have to make an incredible comeback for sure next season. There's no way Leicester City's downfall could be that bad. It can't be that bad. So anyway, back to the FA Cup final between Chelsea and Manchester City. I'm thinking, as of the last time I checked the Premier League table, I'm wondering, if Chelsea wins the FA Cup final, could they potentially be given a ticket to compete in the UEFA Europa League competition for next season without actually having to be ranked 6th, which is currently the spots needed to be given a spot in the UEFA Europa League for next season? That would leave Brighton to get the other Europa League spots, and then Bournemouth will be competing in the UEFA Conference League next season. That's at least as of the last time. I'm checking right now the Premier League table, where all teams play a lot of the teams have played 34 matches. Clubs like Crystal Palace, Brentford, Manchester United, and Manchester City have at least one game at hand. So those clubs I mentioned have played 33 games. All the other teams in the Premier League have played 34 matches already. Anything could change. Even with 4 Premier League matches left, anything could change. So yeah, I think if Chelsea wins the FA Cup final, and yet they continue to do horribly in the league, like go lower than 8th where they are now, they can still compete in the Europa League because they won the FA Cup, which grants you automatically a spot in the Europa League, UEFA Europa League phase. Or otherwise, if Manchester City wins the FA Cup final, then the UEFA Europa League ticket via the FA Cup final will then be given to Bournemouth, and then the league spot for the Europa League will then be passed down to Bournemouth in 7th instead of Brighton. And then Chelsea, as they are right now, would likely compete in the UEFA Conference League. Or maybe Brentford competes in Europe. Or Fulham. Perhaps Everton could. I'm not ruling out Sunderland. As of now, I doubt it. It'd be pretty cool. They've just been promoted quite recently. And wow, what a season Sunderland had as a newly promoted side. A lot of people thought they would have gone down, but they're literally ranked 12th, 46 points out of the 34 matches they played. As I'm recording this, quite impressive. I'll give them that. I don't think we'll see feats like this happen again in another few years. Pakistan launches EO-3 satellite boosts Earth observation capability. On Saturday, Pakistan successfully launched its indigenous EO-3 satellite from China's Taiwan Satellite Launch Center using a Long March 6 carrier rocket that lifted off at 8:15 p.m. Beijing time. Following the successful deployment of EO-1 and EO-2 satellites by satirical, this launch marks the 640th flight of the Long March series, demonstrating years of Pakistan-China space collaboration. Beyond core imaging, the EO-3 satellite carries an AI-powered data processing unit and geometry imaging module. Interservices Public Relations said the satellite will revolutionize urban planning, disaster management, food security, and environment protection. Asif Ali Zardari termed the launch a historic milestone reflecting Pakistan's self-reliance and space capability, while Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif praised Suparco's engineers and scientists for their professional excellence. The successful deployment establishes a foundation for an integrated Earth observation system supporting national priorities. Officials expect the satellite addition will significantly enhance national capabilities in remote sensing across socio-economic sectors. I do have a question. And I'm not talking about the firmament, I'm not talking about going to space, even if I want to explore what the greater depths of the universe is like. I know in the last few decades, a lot of countries send a lot of satellites up in the sky across the stratosphere to observe the terrain, the climate, and of course, like with the satellite that's been launched, it will help Pakistan with urban planning, disaster management, food security, environment protection. Pretty smart, I'd say. What I want to know is, if there have been so many satellites that have been sent up into the stratosphere, circling Earth, what are the odds that there comes a point, if there hasn't been yet, two or more satellites sent up by other countries collide with each other? And if they do, will those satellites still continue circling the Earth, or will they just come crashing down like asteroids? This is not a gotcha moment, and I'm not. This is nothing about my skepticism about space in general. What does happen to satellites that circle around Earth, floating amongst the stratosphere? What if two or more satellites crash into each other? Do they continue circling about? Do they even still function if they do collide, or do they just come crashing down, landing on the ground or somewhere in the sea? I've always wondered about that. And whatever that answer might be, that's not to say that we can't escape the firmament. We can't go to the greater depths of the universe. I'm just talking about satellites. Loads of countries send so many satellites into the sky and circling the Earth for who knows how many years. There comes to a point that these satellites will stop working. And if they still work, what are the odds that one satellite crashes with another satellite? And would they still function then? And if they still circled about, what would happen if these satellite collisions would result in those satellites falling from out of the sky? It does make you wonder. I've always wondered about that. And whether the answer might be, I'd be curious to find out about that. Avian influenza, the level of risk increases from high to moderate in France. I don't get it. What do you mean high to moderate? Anyway, let's just read it. I'm trying to read it, but it's not letting me. What's the hubble up, guys? What's the hubble up? Avian flu is receding in France, with the risk level dropping from high to moderate. Okay, now that makes sense. Poultry are returning to the outdoors, a sign of improved health conditions. Farmers are relieved, but vigilance remains essential. The risk level in France related to avian flu is lowered from this Monday, April 27th, in metropolitan territory, going from high to moderate, a decision which puts an end to the restrictive measures of confining poultry, welcomed with relief by farmers. The Ministry of Agriculture made the decision considering the improvement in the health situation within farms and in wild birds, according to an order from the Ministry's General Food Directorate dated April 21st and published Sunday in the official journal. It will allow for a relaxation of health measures. The obligations to shelter poultry now only concern certain sensitive areas of the national territory, the ministry told AFP. Taken after consultation with scientists and professionals in the sector, according to the ministry, this decision was welcomed with relief, particularly in the southwest, the epicenter of agricultural anger this winter, which had been revived, among other things, by the spread of contagious bovine lumpy skin disease. Well, it's good to hear that, well, whatever disease was going around in France, the risk has reduced, and the farmers are absolutely pleased by it. Of course they would be. Why wouldn't they? If anything risks their livestock, of course they would be worried. So that's great to hear. Whatever disease, avian flu, was roaming about in France, the risk has reduced. Of course, people will still have to be vigilant, as the report said. It hasn't gone away yet. It still exists somewhere in France. At least the risk of it has been reduced, and whatever operations farmers had to stop because of this risk, they can now continue with those said operations that they did go with before until they found out avian flu was running amok. And that is it for the episode.